At first glance, it was nothing more than a fleeting detail, something so small that most people might have missed it entirely. A young royal girl, standing gracefully beside her family, smiling politely for the cameras, just as she has been taught to do. But then, something changed. Not in her posture. Not in her expression. But in something far more subtle. Her hands. More specifically, her nails. Because what appeared on Princess Charlotte's fingertips that day, barely noticeable unless you were looking closely, sparked a wave of curiosity across royal watchers, etiquette experts, and even longtime observers of palace tradition. Was it simply a child expressing herself? Or was it something deeper, a quiet shift in a centuries-old royal rule? And perhaps the most intriguing question of all. Was this moment intentional? Because in the world of the British royal family, even the smallest details are rarely accidental. Princess Charlotte has grown up in front of the world's eyes. From the moment she first appeared on the steps of St. Mary's Hospital, wrapped in a delicate white blanket, she became more than just a child, she became a symbol. A future royal. A representation of tradition. A reflection of continuity. And yet, as she grows older, subtle changes have begun to emerge. Moments that feel slightly different. Moments that hint at a new generation quietly redefining what it means to be royal. So when Charlotte was recently seen in public with what appeared to be a soft hint of nail polish, it didn't take long for the internet to notice. Because for decades, royal women have followed an unspoken rule. Neutral tones only. Nothing bold. Nothing distracting. So why did this moment feel different? Was it simply a harmless childhood detail? Or a quiet signal that things inside the royal family might be evolving? And more importantly, what does this say about the future of royal tradition? It happened during a public appearance, one of those carefully observed royal moments where every gesture, every glance, every detail is quietly analyzed. Princess Charlotte stood alongside her family, composed beyond her years. There was a calm confidence about her, a poise that many have noted she seems to inherit naturally. But as cameras zoomed in, something caught the light. A faint shimmer. Soft. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. Her nails. And suddenly, what should have been an ordinary royal appearance turned into something else entirely. Because people began to ask. Was that nail polish? At first, it seemed almost too minor to matter. After all, Charlotte is still a child. But then, the conversation grew. Because in the royal world, even the smallest deviations from tradition can carry meaning. And this wasn't just about nail polish. It was about what it represented. To understand why this moment mattered, you have to understand the quiet power of royal etiquette. For decades, some would say centuries, members of the British royal family have followed an unspoken code. A code that governs everything from posture, to speech, to appearance. And for women in particular, there has always been an emphasis on subtlety. Neutral makeup. Soft tones. Minimal distractions. Even nail polish has traditionally followed this rule. It's often said that Queen Elizabeth favored a single pale shade, elegant, understated, timeless. So when something appears outside of that expectation, it stands out. But here's the interesting part. No official rule has ever been publicly confirmed. There is no written law that says royal women cannot wear colorful nail polish. And yet, the expectation has always been there. So when Charlotte appeared with even the faintest hint of color, it raised a fascinating question. Are these traditions still being followed as strictly as before? Or are they quietly softening? Princess Charlotte is not growing up in the same royal world that existed decades ago. She belongs to a new generation. A generation shaped by modern values, changing public expectations, and a more open relationship with the outside world. Her parents, Prince William and Princess Catherine, have already shown signs of this shift. They've embraced a more relatable image. They've allowed glimpses of normal family life. They've balanced tradition with a sense of modern warmth. So perhaps Charlotte's small moment wasn't accidental at all. Perhaps it reflects a broader philosophy. A belief that while tradition is important, individuality doesn't have to be lost. But then again, could it simply be a child being a child? Because that's the tension at the heart of this story. As images circulated online, reactions came quickly. Some found the moment charming. A sweet reminder that Charlotte is still young, still discovering herself. Others, however, saw something more symbolic. A quiet shift. A subtle departure from rigid expectations. And of course, there were those who questioned whether it was appropriate at all. Because even now, the royal family operates under a microscope. Every choice is interpreted. Every detail is discussed. So the conversation grew. Not just about nail polish, but about what it represents in a modern monarchy. And whether these small changes are intentional or simply inevitable. The British royal family has always existed in a delicate balance. On one side, tradition. On the other, adaptation. Too much change, and the institution risks losing its identity. Too little, and it risks becoming disconnected from the public. So every generation must navigate this tension. Carefully. Quietly. Strategically. And sometimes, the smallest details reveal the most. Because they show where boundaries are shifting. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But gradually. Almost imperceptibly. So when Charlotte appeared with that subtle detail, it wasn't just about her. It was about where the royal family might be heading. It's easy to forget, in moments like these, that Princess Charlotte is still a child. She is learning. Growing. Discovering who she is. And doing so under a level of public scrutiny that most people could never imagine. So perhaps the most important perspective is the simplest one. What if this moment wasn't symbolic at all? What if it was just a little girl enjoying a small expression of herself? Because sometimes, the most human explanation is also the most accurate. And yet, in the royal world, nothing ever feels entirely simple. But here's where things become truly interesting. Because this wasn't just about Princess Charlotte. It became about perception. About expectation. And about the invisible rules that continue to shape the royal image. Because when people saw that subtle detail, they weren't just reacting to a child. They were reacting to what they believed the royal family should represent. For some, tradition must remain untouched. Every detail preserved exactly as it has been. For others, evolution is not just acceptable, it's necessary. And Charlotte, whether intentionally or not, found herself at the center of that conversation. A symbol of something larger than herself. And that's the quiet tension that defines modern royalty. Because how do you raise a child to be both a person and an institution? How do you allow individuality while maintaining the weight of history? And perhaps most importantly, where do you draw the line? Because if something as small as nail polish can spark this level of discussion, what happens when the changes become bigger? More visible? More permanent? That's the question that lingers beneath the surface. And it's one that the royal family continues to navigate carefully, quietly, and always under watchful eyes. In the end, what makes this moment so compelling isn't the detail itself. It's what it reveals. About perception. About expectation. And about the evolving nature of tradition. Princess Charlotte represents the future of the monarchy. A future that will likely look different from the past. Not entirely transformed, but subtly reshaped. And perhaps that's exactly how change happens in the royal world. Not through bold declarations, but through quiet moments. Small details. Gentle shifts. Moments that seem insignificant at first. Until you realize they've changed something deeper. So whether this was simply a child's innocent expression, or a subtle reflection of a changing royal philosophy, it reminds us of something important. Even the smallest moments can carry meaning, especially when they happen within one of the most watched families in the world. So, what do you think? Was this just a harmless, playful detail? Or a quiet sign that royal traditions are beginning to evolve? And do you believe moments like this change how people see the future of the monarchy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, I'd love to hear your perspective.